So this is a question I get asked at least every other week on the Transformer Slag podcast live streams that we do on Saturday. Like this is like a super chat question we get all the time. And I figured I'd just do a quick segment about it so that it's out there for people to find. Even if you aren't a fan of the podcast, it's just information that I could pass along and find, and that way people don't have to spend money every time asking it as a super chat question, just so people could know. And it is a money related question because it's something I always get asked, which is like, Proto Man, you have such a big collection, but you said that you bought most of that collection many years ago when you used to work at Burger King as a drive-through guy. How did you wing that? How did you pull that off? And that is true. That is true. Almost, dare I say, God, over 15 years ago now. It's crazy. I used to work at Burger King and I worked the drive-thru, but I was a completist and I used to buy everything. And how did I pull that off? And it essentially was like this epiphany that I had going to BotCon, which was like, during Energon back in 2004, that first wave came out and I bought everything day one, full price, everything. I remember looking at that bill. I must have that bill still somewhere because I remember just going like, wow, I just dropped like 150 to 200 bucks on this whole first wave of Energon. And it just like, I was like, man, like, that's crazy. And I was buying everything brand new, every Energon toy, every Cybertron toy. Like, even when Armada, when I got my first job, I was just going crazy. And then I went to BotCon 2005 in Dallas, Texas, that very first Fun Pub year, and seeing literally less than 12 months later, all of that first and second wave Energon stuff, loose complete, but a fraction of the price. Like no one cared anymore. And they've moved on to the next thing, which was like, late Energon and early Cybertron stuff. So I saw back then how if you were patient, you could get most of that product relatively cheap. And yeah, there's going to be some outliers that get away, that go up in value. But when you measure it against how much you're going to save, yeah, you could then take that small amount of savings and put it towards getting that item that might have like went up a couple bucks. But so what I'm going to pretty much talk about is, how you could save money in this hobby, how you could, like where you could go to save that money. Because especially today in 2023, as of this recording, we have a lot of, options. We have a lot of little different things that you could go about in order to do that. The first one, which I know not everyone has at their disposal, but it's conventions. And I find that, not the big conventions, not the San Diego Comic-Cons or your local giant, 170 table, big Comic-Con kind of show, a Fan Expo for Canada, let's say, or Texas Comic-Con or a New York Comic-Con. Like I'm talking a more local show, a more like 30 to 50 table show that, is ran in a hotel. It's something where those local shows, if, you're always going to be able to find some kind of deals at those, especially if you're willing to dig through bins. There's always guys that have bins of stuff, loose figures. If you're willing to dig, there's probably a loose figure of something that was original in MSRP of like $20 that now is in a Ziploc bag, 100% complete for like $5. So you got to go to those local cons. You have to. It's just how it is. Now, how do you find those cons? Because obviously, when my words go out here, this could fall on the ears of someone in the United States. This could fall on the ears of someone in Canada and the Philippines and Italy. I'll get into how you could find those cons afterwards. We'll get into that in the final part of this because it's kind of related too. The second one that I use personally is a lot of times when I'm trying to track down specific figures, and I always find them relatively on the cheap, a great source is forums. Now, granted, I know a lot of people aren't a big fan of Transformer forums. Sometimes it could be a hive of, oh my God, like some of the worst conversations. But it is a fantastic tool for when it comes to finding used product, and more so what I like to call regret purchases. Just to give a shout out, TFW 2005. They're not a sponsor. They've been my go-to forever. You go to TFW 2005, you go to their Junkie on Exchange section, the buy, sell, trade. There is always someone unloading on their collection. I bought all of this. I changed my mind. I don't want it anymore. And they have a great search algorithm that gives you opportunities to kind of just search specifically for what you're looking for. Hey, did anyone unload on this yet? And you could check all the time. And I find personally, you always get these opportunities where someone buys something that's brand new. They crack it open. They mess with it once or twice, and then a week afterwards, they're like, oh no, I have a credit card bill. Hey, anyone want this figure that just came out from Legacy Evolution for like, half the price and no tax in, and all you have to do is pay the shipping. Or if you're even more lucky, if the person selling actually lives in your area or is drivable. So those are always great opportunities too. Another one too is socials, Facebook, stuff like that. Now again, Facebook, I get it. Facebook is trash. Most of it is garbage. It's just people, documenting their lives like a diary as if you even care. But Facebook has a lot of great tools for when it comes to cons. Because remember how I told you, how do you find those cons? Well, Facebook, in your local area, Facebook will use its algorithm to see where you live, and then it's going to suggest events to you. And if you go to your events tab on Facebook, sometimes they will suggest, hey, this show is coming. Hey, this show is coming that's, 10 kilometers from your house or something. Sometimes you'll find Facebook groups that then will tell you about local shows. If you're part of a certain community, let me just use an example like here. You live in Montreal, so maybe there's a Montreal geek group. And then they let you know about all the conventions that happen every single month. And then that Montreal Geek group, just being part of it and having it part of your social feed might give you updates on, hey, this local con is happening, or this is happening, this con off the island. And if you do a little drive, you'll be able to go to this. Or, hey, I'm doing a garage sale and I'm selling my collection. So that's also like another really good one is, while you might not like Facebook, the tools that Facebook gives us still are very good for our hobby. Another good Facebook thing, too, is the actual Transformer buy, sell, trade groups that exist on Facebook. And there's a lot of them. I'm not going to suggest any of them because, whatever, but there is a lot of them. And these guys, let me tell you, you want to talk about turnover. I'm seeing guys buying Toxitron collection stuff, opening them up and saying, hey, I don't want it anymore. The turnover on Facebook groups, even more so than TFW 2005, is insane. The amount of people that buy stuff, open it, and then get bored with it, and then it ends up for sale is immense. So you got to check out those Facebook groups. You'd be doing yourself a disservice by not giving it a little gander if you're someone who's already buying full price. If you're someone who likes buying mint in box, I get it. You'll also probably find it, just not as much. But loose complete, there's tons of it. And the last one is retail sales. And this was something that I've been religiously doing for years. And retailers always do sales. They always want to get rid of their product. They don't have space for whatever reason. And yeah, sure, you might run the risk of waiting for a sale to happen on a specific Transformer item, and it might not be available when that sale does come around. But it's better to know than not know. And sometimes there's like crazy deep clearance that you don't even know happen because they don't advertise the crazy deep clearance. They advertise the 20% off, the 10% off. They don't let you know when all of a sudden, hey, like we just talked about like just a couple days ago, Titan class Fortress Maximus is hitting as low as $39.99 from its $150. They won't advertise those sales. So that's something where you got to always be on top of those retail sales. And I know that it's a headache to go check every week in person and scan every item, or to check a flyer every week, or to check a retailer's online website. You don't have the time for that. That's cool. But that's where, and I guess I'm going to plug myself in a small way. Through my Patreon, we have an exclusive Transformer Slag podcast Discord, and we have a section dedicated to deep discounts and retail sales that we were able to share with each other. Hey, here's what's happening. Here's what's on sale this week. I saw this, I saw that, because we're a huge community of people that let each other know when there's sales and deals. And if you're part of my Patreon and you're part of the Discord, you get access to that so you can know when there's sales, when there's big deals happening and stuff like that. And sometimes they're only available for a week. That sale happens on Thursday, and then it ends the following Wednesday, and that's that. You missed your opportunity on like 30% off this, or this item was like going for clearance for $1.99 because they got to get it out of here. So that's another one too, is the retail sales. If you have the time, check it out. Go as much as you can. I understand it might be a waste of gas, but if you have the opportunities, I know I did back in the day. I worked at that Burger King, and across from me was both a Toys R Us and a Walmart. And I used to check every day, but I had the luck of that proximity. But if you don't, there is other opportunities, again, checking online on their websites. But again, the deep discounts, sometimes you have to go in person and scan items, or in the case like we have here with the Transformer Slag podcast, our Patreon Discord, that will give people chances to know about that stuff too. I hope that gives a little bit, but I mean, that's kind of like the trifecta of them, in my opinion, of how you could save money on this hobby, because it's an expensive hobby. Let's be real. It really is. I almost feel like sometimes I look at some of other people's hobbies and I go, you know what? It's not as expensive as being a Transformer collector. Maybe the sneakerhead guys are probably a little more, but it is what it is. But I hope that just kind of gives you a small little brief amount of it. It's just I've been asked this question so many times, and I feel like I've always been repeating myself over and over. So I figured I'll put it out there, put it as an individual segment. That way people could find it, they could link it, they could share it with friends and go, hey, here's how you could save some money. Here's how you don't have to spend $39.99 on this. You could find it, cheaper for $29, or someone selling it loose complete for $20, tax in plus shipping, and that might only be $5 in a padded envelope. There's opportunities there. So let me know what you think, guys. Maybe I'm missing something, but I feel like I kind of covered some of the basics at least. Let me know what you think, and hope you learned something today here on the Transformer Slag podcast, and thank you for listening.